Chairman Teague, floor is yours, sir.
Thank you, Chairman Cannon. Where were we?
Turkey, I think. No, sir, you're on proclamation 1633.
WMA hunting seasons, limits, and miscellaneous regs, I think.
Are we good to go? All right. I would like to present to you the recommendations for adjustments to the Proclamation 1633 concerning wildlife management areas. And this also covers public hunting areas and refuges. And I'll just go ahead and get started. In Region 1, which is West Tennessee, there were 7 new areas that have been proclaimed since the last season setting. And we're in need of setting seasons for these areas. And these areas are at Beeson Creek WMA, Beach River WMA, Chambers Creek WMA, Colonel Forest V. Durand WMA, Grays Creek WMA, Perry Switch WMA, and Spring Creek WMA. Also in Region 1, on Thorny Cypress WMA, we recommend establishing dog training from September 1st to October 31st. And we recommend this because it would reduce interference with habitat management, and it also creates consistency of regulation with Bogota, which is a neighboring WMA. In Region 2, in Middle Tennessee, there have been 2 new areas which need seasons, and that is Cowan Swamp PHA, which stands for Public Hunting Area, Shady Park Public Hunting Area, and those seasons, we recommend them to be same as statewide. On Laurel Hill WMA, we recommend adding a 2-week goose season in the fields only, and this is a new opportunity that was historically present in the past. In Region 3, there are 5 new areas. Anderson Pond Public Hunting Area, Battle Creek PHA, Whites Creek PHA, recommend setting them for same as statewide. On Hampton Crossroads PHA, Long Branch PHA, recommend them same as statewide, but with deer archery equipment allowed only. And then Blackburn Fork WMA, we recommend setting those seasons same as statewide, but with a stipulation for dog training from September 1st to March 15th. On Catoosa WMA in Region 3, which is the Cumberland Plateau, we recommend removing the quota from the young sportsman deer gun hunt. We recommend this as a result of a public request that would also increase participation during this hunt. On South Cherokee Wildlife Management Area, which is on Region 3, we recommend removing the prohibition of tracking devices for squirrel dogs. This is a public request, and this also makes sense because it creates consistency with regulations that are established for raccoon hunts on the area. In Region 3, on Enterprise South Nature Park Wildlife Management Area, we recommend removing the deer hunt for this season. We have an agreement with Hamilton County, and we have reduced the deer herd as per this agreement, and we will recommend future hunts in future season setting meetings in order to maintain this deer herd at a density that is below carrying capacity. On Bridgestone Firestone Centennial Wilderness, we recommend to allow hiking during the big game hunts without firearms. This is a result of a public request, and it also accommodates multi-user group activities that occur in this area. In Region 4, there are 3 new areas that have been proclaimed that need season set. Henderson Swamp PHA, Big Springs Access PHA, and Mullins Island PHA. Henderson Swamp and Big Springs are near North Cherokee, and we recommend setting them for same as statewide seasons, but with the same exceptions as North Cherokee in regards to small game hunting. And then on Mullins, we recommend setting that for the same as statewide seasons. On North Cherokee, we recommend setting the bag limits for antlerless take, and that's making them specific And that was done to prevent a potential change in the county bag antlerless limit from affecting this area. On foothills, we recommend the same thing to establish the antlerless take bag limits. And that concludes all the TWRA agency recommendations for the Wildlife Management Area Proclamation 16-33.
Discussion from the commission. Take your time.
They're writing little speeches and they want to get it all right before.
Well, there's a lot in there. It takes a while. Sometimes WMA is a lot of information pretty quick, so.
I want a clarification on the hikers on Bridgestone, Firestone. Is it just archery season or is it all big game seasons?
It's big game seasons where there are no
Thank you.
firearms.
Thank you. And just a quick question. Why would there ever be a prohibition on tracking devices on squirrel dogs?
We had that prohibition. It had to do with, which WMA was that? Was
I don't
that
know, but I just wonder why it would ever be prohibited to start with.
South Cherokee.
Kirk Miles, Region 3, that's on the South Cherokee.
Thank you.
This was, from last year, we added squirrel hunting that would coincide with bear hunting. We, as always, met with the Forest Service, and when we did it last year, prohibiting the tracking devices on the squirrel dogs was a way to distinguish a legal bear hunter that uses tracking devices from a legal squirrel hunter. This change removes that and makes it the same as the stipulations we have for our raccoon hunters, where it's still 2 dogs per vehicle. That's simply what it does. It's a really good question, and my answer is we're correcting a mistake from last year. That's what we're doing.
So as far as you know, we don't have other WMAs that have
No, sir.
prohibit pro.
No, sir.
So as it stands now, during non-dog bear seasons, people that own land within the bear reserves can use 2 dogs per vehicle, correct? To hunt squirrels and raccoons.
Is this on private land, on the South Cherokee, on?
I guess we just
We're
ran
talk-
off of it. I apologize.
Yes.
Yeah, we'll get to that next, okay.
Okay.
My
Yes.
fault. Well, it's not with WMAs. You want to take it in a minute? It's on both. It's on both? Okay.
I'll yield the mic to Mr. Dan Gibbs.
Dan Gibbs, Region 4. Yes, I was going to ask Joy, I think she may have just overlooked that in the WMA proc, but yes, it's in the WMA proc, and it's also in the fur bear proc that Roger will be presenting in a few minutes to take care of public and private land within the bear reserves.
But what I said is correct?
Correct.
Okay. thank
Yes, during the still hunts, they will be able to utilize the dogs.
you. Okay.
Any other comments from the commission? Wildlife Management Committee? Okay, how about the audience? State your name for the record and if you represent an organization.
Stephen Goodwin. I'm a resident of White County and user of Bridgestone Firestone Wildlife Management Area. The issue I'm here to speak on is a continuation of not allowing hiking or other non-hunting activities during any deer hunt on Bridgestone Firestone WMA. The statewide deer hunting season is 102 days. On Bridgestone Firestone, it's only 69 across the board. Makes it 33 days shorter than the statewide season and allows hiking and other non-hunting activities 296 days out of the year. There are several concerns that come up about hiking during hunting season, be mistaken for game incidents, which could take place. You also have people who are anti-hunting organizations who could use the defense that they were merely hiking on Bridgestone in order to interfere with lawful hunting, and in turn would make it harder for the wildlife officers, to prosecute them if they've got the defense that they were hiking. Sportsmen and women that purchase license and permits make up the majority of the funding for operation of WMAs. And like I said earlier, the hikers have 296 days of use. Deer hunting across the board on the WMA is, again, 69 days. As the years go by, the availability of private hunting lands decrease, which again is a reason for wildlife management area. Hikers claim there's room for both on Bridgestone, Firestone. As far as I'm concerned, I say that there's not during those 69 days of deer season. So in closing, the decision which you make on this issue not only affects Bridgestone, Firestone, but can affect any wildlife management area across the state. So in closing, I would respectfully ask that hunting or hiking not be allowed during archery-only hunts or any hunts on Bridgestone, Firestone. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, ma'am. State your name.
So we've heard from a hunter, and I'm a hiker on Bridgestone, Firestone. I've hiked extensively out there for the last 6 years. I've done extensive.
Ma'am, do you mind stating your name for?
Oh, sorry. My name is
Record.
Lillian I, and
Thank
I am
you.
actually a resident of Cheatham County. But I drive out to White County probably 3 times a month at least to hike out there. And I am here to agree with the hunter. As a hiker who has hiked out there extensively, who has done maintenance projects out at Bridgestone, I am in agreement. I appreciate the fact that we have a shortened season where hikers have exclusive use. They're not exposed to any danger from hunters, and also we are not interfering with hunters. And I think that's an important point to make. We travel in packs. We don't go out there like the hunters do and go out and with 1 or 2 people and pick our spot. We travel in packs, we make a lot of noise. And I just feel like that we need, as hikers, we can respect the hunters that are out there. We can respect that they get their pristine environment to hunt without our interference. We have, Bridgestone total is 15,000 acres. Right down the road is Fall Creek Falls State Park with 25,000 acres. And my own personal view is I have a lot of options during hunting season. Let the hunters have their 15,000 acres, and I can go hike on Fall Creek Falls State Park with their 25,000 acres. And I just feel like that we should respect other users as hikers. The other thing is I do hike out there frequently. I've probably hiked at least 200 miles out there a year for the last 6 years since we've been retired. And the demand for hiking out there is just really not that great. There have been members of the public that I am acquainted with who go out there and try to tell people that because there are 70 cars parked on the Virgin Falls side of the road out there, that there is a high demand for access to hiking during the closed hunting season. And there is not, because there is not that high a demand during the time that the wildlife management area is open. So I see this as unnecessarily interfering with the fact that we have hunters out there who do want an environment where they can go out and feel like a bunch of hikers isn't going to go through and scare off their game. And that, that's my point of view. I think we have options. And I think that the demand overall is not out there. I go out there hiking, and it's very rare that I meet 2 other people who are not part of my hiking group. And I think people are trying to say that there is a great demand, but nobody is presenting any data, and I'm a mathematician, so I like data. And nobody is presenting any data that says that people are using the wildlife management area to any great extent during the time that it's open. There are camping sites down at the Caney Fork River, which is at the end of Scotts Gulf Road, which is, that part of Scotts Gulf Road is a wildlife management road. And there's a lot of camping that goes on down there. That road is open year-round, and to my knowledge, has always been open year-round. And people can continue to camp down there all the time, but they don't really go out. They use the river, they use the campsite, they kind of hang out, and from the number of bottles that are left down there, the debris and the trash, it's quite evident that they're there to be away from other people and take care of their recreational needs in other ways. They're not going out, doing hiking. They're basically out there partying. I mean, that's what it amounts to. Except for the enforcement that goes on in the wildlife management area, they're out there partying. At least that's what their debris indicates that they're doing. And I guess overall that is my position as an avid hiker out there. I don't like to see the trash that is left behind. Hikers try to give the impression that we're a really neat people, and that's not necessarily true. Hikers can trash places too, and all you have to do is go next door across the road to Virgin Falls and the state management area out there. That's the state natural area, and it's the only, as far as I know, the only state natural area that allows camping, and there is no pre-registration for that camping. So the situation across the road at Virgin Falls is the trail is beat up. It's beat to death. And at every campsite out there, there's all kinds of trash left in the fire rings. I personally have carried folding chairs out of the Virgin Falls State Natural Area. And I think the people at Bridgestone do a really excellent job of keeping the management area functioning. I think they did a really excellent job last March. There was a tremendous ice storm out there. They did an excellent job of getting the road, the public road, and the trails open. So I think the wildlife management people got out there are doing a great job. And I want them to continue to do this job, and I don't think that we need to change things because I don't think that there's enough public usage of the wildlife management area during the time that it's open to in any way justify changing the experience that the hunters are having. And as I said, there's 25,000 acres right down the road in Fall Creek Falls. There's the Virgin Falls management area. There's now there's the Lost Creek that has recently been added. It's not a huge amount of space, but there's a mile of hiking in that little area around White's Cave. And I just feel like that as a hiker, I am willing and want to respect the other users of that land. And basically that's what I have to say.
Thank you. Anyone else from the audience? Commissioner Woodson.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I have a question for the agency. Great. My question relates to the consistency of the proposal with other WMAs. As I understood it, this actually brings it in line with WMAs across the state. And so at first blush, one might think that this is actually creating a new precedent, but rather it's making it consistent policy with a significant number of WMAs across the state. But if you could clarify my understanding of that and perhaps the other members of the commission.
Sure, I would like to. The standing rule, the consistent rule, is that wildlife management areas are closed to other hunting, other activities besides hunting, unless an exception is made. And so a particular exception has to be made. And as far as I know, there are 7 exceptions, 7 areas that have exceptions. And North Cherokee is one. It's a state forest, so that makes sense that it's a large area with multiple user groups. North Cumberland is another. I think it's our largest WMA over in Region 4. Tellico Lake, land between the lakes, Shelby Forest, Chickasaw, and Natchez Trace are other areas that have hunting that have made exceptions to allow non-hunting user groups to have access. Oh, yeah, and Forks of the River.
Can I make another comment?
Yes, ma'am. Would you like to-
Well, relative to this, though, I also understand that Prentice Cooper State Forest and some of the other state forests also have closure during hunting season to hiking. That this is it's not unique in that, only WMAs have that. Okay, thank you.
I'm curious about this, if I may, Mr. Chairman. Is there a particular trail or something through this area that makes it attractive to hiking, or?
Well, okay, I'm gonna be perfectly honest here, okay?
Yeah,
This,
I'm just,
this is my opinion, okay? There are like 26 miles of trail existing within the wildlife management area. As I said, they are not heavily used. I probably hike out there along with a group of, I'm retired, and I have a group of retired friends who live in the Cookeville, Sparta area, and we get together, and it's sort of like, well, where do you want to go hiking this week? And if nobody has any great option, it's okay, we'll go out to Bridgestone again. And not only that, but my group of friends back,
well, let me interrupt, and I
Yeah.
don't mean to be rude at all, but is there a through trail?
No.
Is this a continuation of a through trail?
no,
Like the Appalachian Trail, or?
no. Okay, one of the
Well,
Okay.
you've
One of the
mentioned-
incentives or the background behind part of this, and I think this is sort of just one step toward a bigger goal, is there is a group out there that call themselves the Friends of the Mid-Cumberland Trail. And their goal is to build a trail that goes from a loop trail, not just a single path, but a loop trail that goes from Fall Creek Falls State Park to Virgin Falls. And in order to do this, they have to travel, they want to build more than 30 miles of trail within the Bridgestone Wildlife Management Area. I don't know how much people are aware of this, but about 10,000 acres of the Bridgestone Wildlife Management Area was given by Bridgestone Corporation to the state. A large part of that is within a conservation easement, a conservation trust. And one of the requirements, or one of the, I guess, stipulations within that trust is that there's a minimum number of new trails to be built, and they are to be built only as necessary within the Scotts Gulf itself. I think the exact regulation kind of sets up a cliff line, and within 1,000 feet of the cliff line and within the canyon of the Caney Fork River itself is covered by this conservation trust, that no new roads are allowed to be built. Scotts Gulf Road, that in the part that's in that, which is called the Bridgestone Gift, is not allowed to be, it's not allowed to be widened. There are allowed to be no man-made structures within this conservation trust. So
Ma'am,
there's a lot of requirements
Ma'am,
there.
with all due
And,
respect, I feel like we're maybe getting a little redundant, and
Okay.
I don't want to keep everybody here till,
Sure. Well,
10 o'clock at
I was
night,
just
but
trying to
you've
answer
obviously
the
made some really
question
good
is,
points.
I believe this is about
Right.
the through trail. This is a background in order to build a true trail that, in my opinion at least, is not in compliance with that Bridgestone conservation easement, okay?
I'm sure that'll be addressed, and I think that's a little bit of a different subject. It's
Yeah,
related,
it
but
is.
we'll wait till we get, I think, that might be coming along. But we definitely appreciate your comments. Anyone else from the audience, commission? Mike Butler.
Mike Butler with the Tennessee Wildlife Federation. I just wanted to take a moment and say thank you to the commission and to the staff for the discussion that's taken place around this topic over the last several months. What is refreshing is to hear from some hikers that use the area. We have been in conversations with a particular individual that have been pretty less than productive. But I will say this, we hold the conservation easement on that property. And to her point, the approval, we will have to be involved in any type of decisions on expansion of any trail systems or any of that thing in the future. So with that, we would support whatever your decision is today, either way. The dialogue has been smart, it's been good. We had not ever heard from the other side, so to speak. So you have our support moving forward. And appreciate the openness of the communication and the dialogue. Thank you. Yeah.
I just want to make sure I'm hearing you right. You are neutral on the proposal.
Yes.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, Bridgestone Firestone is in my area, and I have been inundated with emails from hikers and from hunters, and none of them are in favor of this. And I've not received an email from Mr. Bullock or anybody else saying that they were wanting it, and they didn't show up today. So that's my 2 cents worth since it's in my area. So.
I do want to state for the record, Mr. Chairman, that we have no concerns that any aspect of the easement is in jeopardy or has been compromised in any way by the agency and its management. So I want to be very clear about that. The easement has been well taken care of. The staff at Bridgestone have been very helpful in accommodating our examination. We do annual audits of that, and if you'd like to see any of those audits, we'd be glad to provide it to you.
Commissioner Bledsoe, is that just a
Oh,
comment?
are we through with the, that was just a comment, I'm sorry. Are we through with the WMA proclamation?
I've presented all the agency recommendations for that proclamation.
Sure.
All right.
Commissioner King.
If there's not been any hikers that have asked to use the property, what made the agency decide to make that recommendation?
If it's okay, I'd like to ask Kirk Miles to come forth.
I'd like to hear from Kurt too, or y'all both come up here, but yeah.
What question am I addressing?
I mean, I guess.
I'm sorry.
I guess I'll say.
It's the squirrel dogs.
Oh, back to the squirrel.
Go with it.
I'd like to know what the need is. Is there a lack of hiking, in the area? Are we providing something that's giving people a chance to use property that they don't have now? Or also, your question in particular was who's actually asking for it?
Right, if there's not been any, like Commissioner Bledsoe said he had not received any requests from hikers to use it, and so I just wondered what made the agency want to make that change.
Okay. I'll answer Commissioner Teague's question first, and Lillian kind of answered it. We're really focused in on the Centennial Wilderness, Bridgestone, Firestone Centennial Wilderness, which is 10,000 acres. That 10,000 acres is, I don't know if the word is sandwiched, but it is right in the same area with thousands of acres that are open to hiking and other activities year-round. Those being Fall Creek Falls Virgin Falls State Natural, Fall Creek Falls State Park, Virgin Falls State Natural Area, Lost Creek Cave. So there are, I think Lillian kind of spoke to that there are other opportunities. But that said, there is, I guess this goes to answer your question, Commissioner King. The reason why this recommendation is before you is recognizing that there are multiple user groups out there. The area is scenic, it's beautiful. It is during a time of the year, the archery season, when leaves are on, leaf colors changing. So I guess it's the agency looking toward making accommodations for that multiple use. That said, I would also not argue with any of the points that Ms. Lillian made or that Steve made as well. I just think that's issues that the commission, as you always do, you have to juggle and weigh and everything when you make this decision. Does that answer the question? Thank you.
If I could add to that, this was a significant topic of discussion during the legislative session this year. Mr. Marvin Bullock, who's the president of the Chamber of Commerce in White County, came in and made a fairly lengthy presentation to the Senate Energy Committee. And I made a commitment to members of that committee that the commission at the agency would look at what, if any, potential increases in opportunities for all user groups could be made at Bridgestone Firestone. So to that extent, I will take full responsibility for the issue being looked at and the commitment that I made that the commission consider it. Certainly, in light of a lot of the testimony that we've had here today, I will say that I have been contacted, and there are hunters that are very much in favor of such a change. In fact, most of the hikers that I've talked to, this change probably doesn't go far enough for them. And honestly, Mr. Marvin Bullock is probably not going to be satisfied with anything than 365-day unfettered access to the property. The property is unique from many of our other WMAs in the way that it was purchased, the way that it was gifted, the way that we operate and maintain it. So I think that we have given it a full discussion. I think that you have all the information that you need in order to make an educated, well-informed decision, and whatever that decision is, we'll go forward with. But I wanted, in response to Commissioner Keene's request, it wasn't Region 3 that jumped up and down and said we needed to do this. This was something that I made commitment to members of the General Assembly that we would consider.
We're always challenged with making the best decisions for all the user groups involved, and it would be nice if the other group that we're discussing was here and represented today. And secondly, it would be nice if we could possibly partner with them to create areas at Bridgestone, Firestone, Centennial Wilderness area that would be really highly conducive to the activities of hiking, and possibly we could make improvements to some of those trails. But it seems like there's a way that we could address this issue, even though we've heard that possibly this is not going to be enough, and maybe it probably never is for most people. But designated areas in an area this large for hiking during that time, I think would address some of the safety concerns, even though I realize a firearm is not the same as a bow and arrow, but a bow and arrow will kill you just as fast as a gun. So I wish we could look at ways to possibly maybe designate trails or areas where the hunters would know, if I go there, I'm going to be subject to groups of people, and if I want to get away, I can. It seems like an area that's this many thousand acres, that would be some way to structure that, but I'm not adamantly familiar with it enough to make that recommendation.
Can I say one more thing?
Sure, as long as it's...
On that matter, this wildlife management area is foot travel only. There's no ATVs, no horses, nothing allowed other than foot travel. So that would, something that gets into designating areas might run into a problem.
Mr. Chairman, just, it is a little disappointing that those that are wanting this are not here today. And at the same time, I want to honor Chris's comments that they have been to the Hill presenting this, and that needs to be given consideration. Merely as a suggestion to the committee, in the event that there is the desire not to include the hiking component of his proclamation, for this year, if the committee would consider including in any motion, referring this to our Property and Infrastructure Committee to provide some better guidance as to what this could look like, if it needed to look like. We need to allow hiking in the future. I would appreciate it.
You ready for a motion, Mr. Chairman?
You can give a motion anytime you want, I think.
I'd like to move approval of Proclamation 1633.
A motion and a second to approve Proclamation 16-33. Any discussion from the commission?
Mr. Chairman, I have one amendment, or I have an amendment right now to Proclamation 1633, and I'd like to make a motion to amend it to allow hikers on the Cumberland Trail State Park, which is a TDEC property which goes through Catoosa, to allow hikers on there year-round on that designated trail.
Have a motion and a second to allow hikers on a designated trail at Catoosa WMA. Is that correct?
It's the Cumberland Trail State Park. I'm saying that right. And the Region 3, I would like for them to designate kind of a boundary to where this is a state park, and it cuts through one of our WMAs, but it connects a lot of other properties. And
Is that something we can get tomorrow?
can we get some language on that
Language
by
for
tomorrow
for
on a boundary system, like
designate the boundary
maybe
outside
50 foot each
east.
side of the trail or
Yes, sir.
something?
Yes, sir, we can do that.
That way the hunters will know where they're at, and the people will know
Okay,
to stay on the trail.
yes, sir.
Thank you. That's it on that.
I'm sorry, I'm a little confused.
We're not at Bridgestone right now, we're at Catoosa.
Okay,
Just an amendment to the WMA proclamation. We had a motion.
we gotta do away with those collars on the squirrel dogs.
You had a second. One second, John. Let's do the motion in a second. We're in discussion for his amendment to allow hiking on a designated trail at Catoosa. Any more discussion from the commission? Audience? All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Amendment Proclamation 16-33 passes committee.
I would also like to make another amendment, Mr. Chairman.
Yes? The amendment. Right, the amendment to the proclamation.
What'd you say?
I said I'd like to make another amendment.
Please do.
I would like to strike the agency's recommendation to allow hikers on Bridgestone Firestone during archery season.
I'll second that. Have a motion, I have a second. Any discussion from the commission?
My only comment is that the person or people that were in favor of this did not represent themselves today, so that bothers me, and I feel like we had the opposition to it, but no one came to support it, and so it really bothers me to make a recommendation to allow hiking during hunting season when no one's here to indicate why they feel like that they need those extra days when they already have the 200 and how many is it days to hike. So I mean, it's a multi-use facility, but I think that
I seconded the motion. I feel like it's a little vague with the access just being anywhere they want to go. I feel like there's some possible safety concerns there, like we do with, and also whenever we're making decisions on WMAs and multiple user groups, you always have to weigh what impact it has on other user groups. And having people walking in the woods during a bow hunting activity is obviously not conducive to a good hunting experience. It feels a situation where, you know, the area was not close to other areas that they were allowed to hike and could have this same type experience, which it sounds like there's numerous places that they can have a great experience with their particular activity. It might be different for me, but I'm not comfortable with it where it is. If there's an opportunity for designated trails or a certain boundary line where they share the area, I would feel more comfortable.
Out of respect for Chairman Cannon, I would like to ask that this be referred to the Property and Infrastructure Committee to look closer at. I would put that in my recommendation.
I have a quick comment, and I think it's Miss Lillian. I'd like to thank you for coming as a non-consumptive user group. We don't normally get people that come in and say, we understand what you do and we appreciate it and we would like to share. We usually have the opposite. So I really appreciate you coming and discussing it.
Tremendous support from the staff out there, and they've always, been very accommodating. And I think this is reasonable, with 25,000 acres, in Fall Creek.
I think anytime we can engage these other user groups, especially ones that don't actually have to pay the fees for their usage that some of the other user groups do, it's a good opportunity. We could partner with them, to make improvements, and everybody kind of sharing the work and responsibility and cost. And I think there's a way to make it work for all user groups, but I'm not sure I'm comfortable with it as recommended right now.
Mr. Chairman, I would like to make a motion to pass Proclamation 16-33 as amended.
We haven't voted on your amendment. Your second amendment. Yeah, we have an amendment to Proclamation 16-33 that removed the agency recommendation to accommodate hikers during archery season on Bridgestone, Firestone, Centennial Wilderness. Any more discussion? Actually, it'd be committee discussion today. Tomorrow when it goes before, I think that would be appropriate. If I'm wrong, tell me to stop. All right, I'm gonna go to vote. All in favor? Aye. All opposed? Proclamation, amendment to the Proclamation 16-33 passes.
Can I interrupt the